Hello everyone, Ultimate Steve here, and this may come as a surprise to some of you, but I play Minecraft, despite the overwhelming abundance of Kerbal Space Program content on my channel. And I have a series of worlds that I created starting in middle school, and in fact still creating, that all come together to form one gigantic Minecraft storyline that I've been working on basically my entire childhood and adulthood so far, I guess. This, as you can probably see by the abundance of rockets here, this storyline is very focused on space, and each one of these vehicles has a story, sometimes several stories behind it, and I've been playing with the idea of doing a lot of world tours for this and making it into a kind of series on my channel. Like I'll tour like a couple of vehicles a day, or maybe one really large vehicle per episode. However, the lore of this storyline really runs deep, and a lot of it won't make sense unless I do like a big lore explainer video first, and there'd have to be multiple of those videos because there's just so much. So just to kind of gauge interest in such a series, I think I'm just going to start off with touring one of the coolest things, and then seeing how many people are interested from there. So if you are interested in seeing more of this, please let me know. But today we are going to be touring Space Station Infinity. Now, Space Station Infinity was constructed by the new Notebook Space Program starting in Phase 6 of the story. Well, technically, the new Notebook Space Program took over in Phase 7. And in Phase 6, what would become the Infinity Space Station was managed by the Villager Space Program. Now, you don't know what any of this means, but hopefully, if I end up making the lore videos later on, you can come back to this and then you will know what that means. But anyway, so basically, to explain some of the context behind this space station's construction in canon, it was constructed right after a long hiatus from when two of the main characters had been separated for a long time and finally managed to reunite. And that main character is the Steve, who is obviously me, and my sibling, which they have not gotten back to me yet on what they want to go by in the canon right now. Their name has changed, so I'll just be referring to them as my sibling from now on. The core module of the space station was this thing. It has 4 hallways, and they are split evenly between me and my sibling. This one and this one were mine, and the other 2 were my siblings. So you can see I took the canon a little bit more seriously than my sibling did, but I am glad that they were able to join me for all this. So as you can see, the modules here on the space station are a little bit smaller, and on this side they were a bit irregular. Now, obviously, in reality, this is because I paid a lot more attention to realism than my sibling did. But in canon, this is explained by preferring separate construction techniques. I would launch my modules on rockets completely, and my sibling would block by block construct them in orbit. So right below the core module, we have the docking apparatus, which has a bunch of different vehicles on, which are not chronologically ordered because it's still used to this day. But the oldest one here is this capsule, which is basically just used in an escape ship, and I'll go inside in a second. This is a Baconator capsule, which was launched on a Baconator 2 rocket, I think, and the Baconator was a series of rockets, which I'll hopefully get to some point, which constructed the earliest part of this space station. It's the oldest rocket that was used in the construction of this particular space station. So if we go inside here, we can see the docking apparatus had 5 sections. This one was later split off into another 3. This, I believe, is... which one is this? This is an ATV-22 resupply capsule, which is just responsible for carrying supplies up to the space station. And it was named because it's short for automated transfer vehicle, and then the 22 is short for 2x2 inside. So I just wanted to actually, and then later on I expanded on the naming scheme by including a Mark II. My microphone is on. Nice. Okay. All right. I was worried it wasn't for a second. So there's ATV-22 and ATV-22 Mark II, but this is just the Mark I here. So these other docking ports really were used as airlocks or visited by other resupply vehicles throughout the point in time. This is a derivative of the ATV-22 Mark II, which is a 2x2 resupply vehicle. You can't really see it because it's packed with cargo right now, but it was destined for Mars, actually. They reused one of the vehicles and they strapped a booster to it, and they sent it off to Mars to resupply the Mars base. But the Mars base is going to be probably several episodes from now, given that we're 5 minutes in and I haven't even got past the docking array, the old docking array. This is the whole old section of the space station. This isn't used very much anymore. Down here, we've got the interior of the Baconator capsule. It could supply 4 people, and it had a variety of levers you could flick for fun, mostly. And then this represents the main computer. I'll have to do a video about computers at some point and the evolution of computers in the canon. And so this was used for transferring crew to and from the space station. Right now, it's basically just here as like a historical artifact and an escape pod if necessary, because the Baconator capsule has not been in use for a great deal of time. And evolution of launch vehicles is something that'll need probably several videos of its own to cover. I might even have to divide the space station video into 2 parts. This was the first module of the space station, and I will start with this wing. I won't go completely through this wing, because it eventually gets into the newer stuff, but this was the first major habitation module on my side of the station. You get your bunk beds here. This is the main airlock, which was used for a bunch of airlock things, usually. And this is I forget exactly what this is called. I think it's called the Pacolo. This was a short-lived experiment by another very notorious company in the canon to send supplies to space using a rocket and a giant cannon. And this really strong rocket would be stuffed in the cannon. It would be launched. The rocket would complete the rest of the journey to orbit, and there would be a couple of supplies we could grab off of here, and it would rendezvous near the airlock, and the stuff would be right inside here. But that's for another video. And again, this is exactly why I'm hesitant to make the series. There's so much cool stuff to talk about, but I'm just worried that people wouldn't want to sit through like the 17 hours of context it would need for the cool stuff to make sense. So again, please let me know if you're further interested in this. I don't know what this is for. I think this was an expansion slot for a module that never really came to be. Then you've got, your normal storage and cooking stuff. It's just a typical habitation module, and this would have, again, been launched on a Baconator rocket. Down here, we have one of the second node module on my side of the station, which connects to a bunch of interesting things. Over here, you have the space station's freezer. I still think this is actually the only freezer on the space station. You'd obviously use it to store frozen food and probably frozen scientific experiments and samples and whatnot. Over here, you have one of the space station's first farming modules. Not really designed for sustenance, more designed for scientific operations. Over here, this is another expansion that I'll actually get to in a moment, because I'm trying to kind of go vaguely in chronological order of what was added when, rather than geographic order. Actually, hold on. Yeah, that's a good next point. As you'll see, you'll notice this module is slightly bigger. I believe this would have been launched on a Gargantua rocket, which was kind of the rocket that replaced the Baconator. It was a bigger rocket capable of launching bigger payloads, and as you can see, the modules are wider. This was the main scientific laboratory for a while, or rather the physics laboratory. And here is one of the main things that's tested over and over throughout the canon is they're trying to find a theory of everything, like what elements make up each block, basically. Like, is stone its own element? How many different types of stone there are there? Is stone made up of multiple elements, etc.? And one of the ways they're trying to determine that is they put blocks in various situations, and then read various readings coming off of them to see how they change relative to like the radiation environments of different space. It doesn't really make sense. I just need something sciencey to put in my science module when I was like 12 years old, and then I had to build the justification around it. But so these exposure experiments will show up anywhere, pretty much everywhere, and these are some of the oldest ones that are still running. So you've got a bunch of exposure experiments reading the values on each block. At this point, I should probably note that this save was originally on the Legacy Console Edition. Another one of the experiments that they had in these modules were fireworks signaling systems. They wanted to have color codes for docked vessels. So they'd shoot fireworks, and then the docking vessels would be able to determine okay, that's what they want us to do. However, due to the event of radio communications, this was very quickly abandoned, as it's probably not a good idea to be shooting fireworks in space near docking vessels from a very expensive orbital asset. We've got some more sciencey looking things over here, storage, typical stuff. There was an explosives laboratory, which was the only explosives laboratory on the space station for a while. They'd put explosives in here, seal it off, and set them off to see how it would do, how things would react to explosions in space. Up here, we've also got an observation dome, where you can see some of the rest of the space station from. That's the core module over there. That was the module you were just in, and that's the rest of the science module with the fireworks dispensers. The other thing that was on the... so there was also an airlock over here, which now isn't actually an airlock, because there's a new segment over here that was built onto this airlock. But out here you also had exposing plants to the vacuum and radiation environment of space. Now, one thing that did happen when we brought this world over from the Xbox edition was that all of the potted plants changed to cactuses. I just think that's kind of hilarious, so I'm going to keep them like cactuses. Maybe there was a giant radiation event that changed everything to cactuses in the canon, I don't know. So that was one of the first bigger modules. The other bigger module was the biology laboratory, which you've got growing a bunch of crops, obviously, animals, potted plants that all change to cactuses. And this is the barrier between the old segment of the space station and the new segment of the space station. If I have to divide the two into, this will be the subject of the second video, because the new segment is basically an entirely new space station on its own. And the old space station is basically just kept around for sentimental reasons. Like, compared to the new space station, the old space station is not really that useful. So that was another expansion over there. So for now, I'm actually going to focus on my siblings' segments, because they probably came in that order canonically. We've got the kitchen here, which of course, you know, every space station needs a kitchen. That's something notably lacking in my module. We've got up here, what actually do we have up here? We've got another observation deck to view the space station. You can see the core module, my stuff's over there. And then up here you have the farms, which we're going to go to in a second. So over here is the entrance to the farms and armor stand, places you can equip stuff. Farms, more farms, which was actually kind of nice, because like these are like the non-scientific farms. Like the other farms were like just for like data, because like if you saw my farm, it was tiny. This is a good farm for like actually maybe sustaining an astronaut or two. And granted, the space station now probably supports like I want to say like 50 people on a regular basis. So they're in canon. Obviously, like we don't actually have 50 people on the station. Over here we've got the scientific laboratory on my siblings' side of the station. It has the station's only particle accelerator, which basically just fires arrows at each other. Like you can see, it goes like pew. Alright, I'll reload that since we are kind of running out. And these are the original areas. I would like to preserve these as much as possible, as silly as it sounds. Food storage, another farm. Over here, we've got a bedroom specifically for my sibling and some of their friends. Anything you need in a normal Minecraft house, but in space. And then I think these are probably computer screens. Over here, we've got another farm, melons and pumpkins. I believe this was the only melon and pumpkin farm on the space station for a good long while. And over here, we've got, I absolutely love that there's 2 ender chests, 1 per person, despite the fact that you only need 1 ender chest per person. Over here, we have one of the more interesting rooms on the space station. Is this room. It's designed specifically for vomiting in. It's just a place where you can go when you're space sick, and need to throw it up, like just like so you can put just keep it away from everything else, I guess. I'm not entirely sure how much logic went into that, but over here you have a dome, probably the best looking dome on the space station because you get almost 360 degrees of glass. We can see over there the space station's first solar panel array, and early on you'd use daylight sensors as basically solar panels. Like that was, well. So there's building styles that we evolved over time to make things look cooler and cooler, and then we kind of retconned it into like technological advances in canon. So like the earliest solar panels in the canon would have been daylight sensors, and then the later, slightly more advanced solar panels would have been those diamond glass ones there. And those are very worn out now and are very much not providing much power at all. But they did supply the majority of the station's power for a long time, but would soon become vastly insufficient for the station's power needs. And then you've got, you know, computers and I think these are either computers or more exposure experiments up here. I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to ask them. So over here, you've got, I think this might have, I forget if this was mine or siblings. But we've got an asteroid defense laser here, which can steer and point and shoot at asteroids to prevent them heading from the station, like with giant space lasers and whatnot. So that was cool, and that is, and this would have all been launched probably on Baconators, like block by block. They'd send like chests of blocks up and then build each individual module like that. That construction method was later not really. It was mostly discontinued. The notorious space company I talked about earlier did try to revitalize it for a little while, but Okay, I'll have to make a video or two about them later. Like, they're called Destination Space, and they are the most scuffed space company you can absolutely imagine. They had so many weird things, and it was a miracle they stayed in business as long as they did. Anyway, so this was the first major expansion to the space station after the core setups were built. This is you've got like a meeting table with some cake here. You've got storage, and you've got a minecart transportation experiment for space. I'm not entirely sure why. You have mushroom growth experiments, and you've got an additional. Oh, oops, that wasn't supposed to happen. I accidentally broke the historical mushrooms by turning on the historical computers. Then you've got sort of an isolated biosphere here to observe growth of plants. Then you've got one that isn't quite obscured. It's just there. Anyway, so this is the... And like this came earlier. This came kind of a bit later. This was our Gargantua expansion. But one of the early ones, like probably the earliest thing that was like launched as its own unit. Down here, you've got an observation deck, of course, because I love my observation decks. They're so fun to have and just look out at everything, especially in the sunset. Like when the Minecraft music starts playing and the emotions of all this nostalgia hits you, and you just gotta just like sit there and cry. Like, I'm actually cheering up a little bit now because the sun's rising and I didn't even plan that. Yay. Oh man. So this is a computer module. Like this is kind of meant to emulate server racks. Like this was another evolution in the Canon's computer technology, just having daylight sensors represent computers. And here you have an older computer module, or a redstone experiment module, take your pick, which was testing a bunch of different computational technologies in space, basically. It's not used so much anymore, because we have better computers now, but, you know, historical reasons. You've got a nice ceiling here, just designed to provide comfiness. I believe on top of here there's a water tank, but that would be only visible outside. And over here we have escape pods. I'm not entirely sure why they thought that 3 escape pods would be sufficient, but you close the door, you press a button, and you get ejected out into space in this pod. Now, in this case, you just hit the space shuttle that's docked here. But I'll get to the space shuttle in a moment. So that's the escape pod module. I'm not entirely sure what 3 escape pods would do on a space station that's designed to hold 50 people. But I mean, it's better than nothing. Like, if you get ejected in this... If this module sometimes separates from the rest of the station, you have an option. You might have to draw straws for that option, but you do have an option. Can I see the water tank from here? I'd have to go outside. Yep, there's a... It wasn't on top of that. This is the water tank, I do believe. It was the station's main water supply storage for a good long time, until the next water tank was added. At least I think we have another water tank. It would kind of be silly if we didn't have another water tank by now. I should build one if we don't. So over here, all the way back through, we've done 3 of the wings. Before we exit the wing finally, an early module I kind of forgot about is the control module up here. It gives a good view of basically the entire space station, including the solar panels. You've got all the modules you can see, and these are the space station's main communications transmitters. Every ship in Canon, at least the official ones, must have a beacon to transmit their position and data information at all times. Kind of like a ship identifier. It says, "Hey, this is my ship identifier. This is where I am." That sort of thing. And this is the setup for Space Station Infinity, and of course the various original computer systems that first controlled everything. And if we go back down here, so that was one of the first things added to the space station. So if we go back in here, we can go into the second major expansion of the space station through the farming module. Was this module? Now this was a very big thing. In fact, I might have to go outside to give you a true sense of scale here. Is there an airlock here? I think there's an airlock down here. Let me go outside. So this was the space tourism module, or at least one of these was the space tourism module. And that is this one, which is far bigger than anything else that has ever been launched. It was also launched at the same time as this, the lava reactor module, on a one-off gigantic rocket called Escargantua, which was 4 gargantua rockets strapped together, because we needed to launch this gigantic thing at the same time. Basically, the lava reactor is kind of our analog of nuclear reactors in the canon. I would need an entire video to explain lava reactors, but For now, it can be explained as throw in valuable items, you get electricity out. It's way more complicated than that, but that is all I can do right now to explain it, because it really does require its own video. Like, there's an entire, like at one point there was basically a philosophical battle between lava reactor technology and conventional technology. It's really wild. So habitation module, you just don't have your own rooms, but you at least have not bunk beds, and you can more than half a block of space above you. Then you've got more sciencey looking things. You've got the space station's first actual decent enchantment table with enough bookshelves to do some amount of things. Do I have anything I can enchant on me? I don't think so. More storage, more computer things, bookshelves, etc. Looking nice. So this is the dome nodule that connected all these together. And the lava reactor is currently beneath us. The lava reactor was one thing designed to power the expanding space station, given that those solar panels are really not enough anymore. And this is the space tourism module, which was designed, just to be a typical space tourism module, and it's still used to this day. Is probably some of the more luxurious accommodations on the space station. You've got a hot tub here, with a furnace, of course, to heat it up, because it's a hot tub. I don't know how a swimming pool would really work in a space, but apparently we do have a localized artificial gravity system here, which is a bunch of fancy doodads that don't really do anything. You've got suites, which were luxurious for the time, but the new segment of the space station actually does have private bedrooms. So even Space Tourist was no longer actually sleeping outside like this, unless it was like a slumber party or something like that. The bulk of the module is taken up by a... Actually, hold on, what's in here? Oh yeah, this is turning the lights on and off, like utility access. This is a movie theater. The first and so far only movie theater in space. You've got a projector up here. You've got seats to watch the movie on. You'd really only watch it at night, though, because you can't really close these windows. You've also got a popcorn machine. Yeah, popcorn. Yay. Yum. You've got a game here. You just hit the target game. This is before target blocks, so otherwise I'd have you use a target block. And I'm not entirely sure what this is. Oh, this is just a record player. Oh, this is to turn on and off the lights. I'm not entirely sure why you'd want to turn off this light when there's another bright light right here and here and here. But either way. So that's the movie theater module. This is a secondary access to the new segment of the space station, which I'll probably go over later. And how it was built was a little bit interesting. It was built by that notorious company when they were trying to find something to do with their technologies. This is the gymnasium. Still the station's only gymnasium. You've got treadmills here. You've got... I'm not entirely sure what these are. And I kind of ran out of ideas to run into weightlifting machines, because I really didn't know what they were going to do. And then, of course, you have a rowing machine, which is just a boat in a hole. On this side of this space station, you've got a redstone piston machine. There was an experiment recently, well, not recently, a long time ago, where I was trying to shoot myself up into space from the ground using a TNT cannon, and this would have been the thing that caught me. It never really panned out, though, but it's still strapped to the outside of the space station just because we haven't bothered removing it. And I'd never actually remove it because, it's memories. I'm never changing any of this. I'm reluctant to even, break a block to get out. You saw me put those arrows back. You saw me put that popcorn back. I'm incredibly attached to all the old stuff on the space station. So the new segment of the space station would start here. However, there is one more segment of the space station, which was basically... now, in order to talk about this segment of the space station, I have to go into a talk about another space company. The Infinity League, which had sponsored the new Notebook Space program, was the main organization building everything up to this point. However, there were a bunch of private space companies that also tried to do stuff in space as well, and the new Notebook Space program kind of allowed them, okay, here's some resources, try and make cool things. That's sort of how NASA is working with private companies these days. So, and it's going to be incredibly obvious who this is based off of. So there's this company called Space M, which is obviously the Minecraft version of SpaceX, that built this segment of the space station. Although I guess in what they actually did in canon, it would probably be similar to what a combination of Axiom Space and SpaceX, if we're going by real world examples. They basically bought the rights to this docking port, or it wasn't a docking port, it was an airlock. And they built their space station expansion off of this side of this thing. So everything using quartz. They pioneered using glass technologies for like their solar panels and docking connectors, as well as quartz for their actual structures. And up until then, the preferred material of choice is iron because it's well understood, although it's a bit heavier. And the solar panel technology of the time was, I think by that time, was probably starting to shift to glass. But not like as pure glass as Space M was. They were also using glass state batteries and all that stuff. But I'll get inside. So this segment of the space station was designed for like a staging area for lunar tourism. So over here you've got basically a check-in area where people would come in from all these docking ports here, which would have docked spacecraft, and they'd check into their living arrangements. The space capsule. No, that's not the space capsule. That's also not the space capsule. It's the space capsule here. No, it's not. Where is the space capsule? Is it down here? Nope. Okay, the docking array for Victory space capsules has no Victory space capsules attached, so I'll have to find a Victory space capsule later on to tour it. But Space M's space capsule was the Victory capsule, which was at the time the most advanced space capsule flown. It could hold 6 people. But yeah, so the tourists would dock here. They'd sign in to their like space hotel rooms here, and this would be like their temporary sleeping arrangements. Obviously not very luxurious, but you know, you had to like fit enough people on here to make lunar tourism economical. And eventually, when I do the other videos, I'll start referring to like costs. And cost is measured in a weird way. Like the economy at like high value levels is based on bedrock. Because there is a way to produce bedrock in Canon, and it's very useful and very, very hard to make and very, very expensive. So, like, you measure the cost of a rocket launch in how many blocks of bedrock it costs, basically. You've also got another sleeping area over here. This is the general kitchen area, which would basically just rehydrate foods. Over here, we've got the utility and life support module. This is an oxygen or water tank using glass technology, and this is a battery using glass technology. I'm not entirely sure what these are, quartz pillars, but presumably they were something. And this is the communications beacon for the Space M section of the space station. And these dispensers are oxygen dispensers. So yeah, this would probably be water, this would probably be oxygen, if I had everything the right way around. This is the docking port to this thing. This is the name's on the outside. I want to say it's called the orichalcum, which was a so there was an old Roblox game where you'd be able to fly to the moon and back and like go on a space station and go to a moon base. And the two ships that would take you to the moon, like from the space station to the moon and back, were called the Orichalcum and the Renegade. And I just thought those were such cool names, so I decided to name this ship after that old Roblox game. So this is the Orichalcum. I'm not entirely sure how that's pronounced. I think it's like a mythical metal, like. Oh, I'll show you how it's spelled when I go outside in a second here. But basically, so there'd be a captain here. They would pilot the ship to the moon. And these seats would all be full of tourists. So you wouldn't really get luxurious accommodations. But, you know, that's kind of the price of going to the moon, I guess. So, and because it's zero gravity, you can have people sitting on the ceiling. Like, they're really packed in here. Like, it would be chaos if this actually flew with, like, actual complement of Minecraft players. So the second module back here is in more seating. There's some storage as well. And their chest, of course, for additional storage. Like, it doubles as storage for pretty much everyone. So it's nice. In here, I believe this is a shower or a bathroom. I'm not entirely sure. This is the observation deck, which used the new dark glass. You've got your typical batteries. Notably, they aren't using glass batteries here. Like, gold blocks was the standard in battery technology for a long time in Canon. So I guess they wanted to go with a more reliable option here. Here is the communications beacon, unless it was up front, of this ship in particular. Then you've got the computers, batteries, and here is a window into the fuel tank. So you could look at the levels of fuels if I actually wanted to put fuel in here. And there is an airlock here. It's strictly for employee use only. You don't want tourists getting in here. Where you could see the outside of the ship and like do repairs. The ship had its own solar panels, and it had so many fuel tanks, and it would be powered by a derivative of the engine that was used on Space M's launch vehicles, which are the Victory and the Victory Heavy, which are very obviously rip-offs of the Falcon 9 and the Falcon Heavy. So that is the Space M wing of the space station. Actually, hold on, I forgot one part of it. Let me go and find that. There's a module that goes down from their node. So going back through the crew compartment. Imagine you're going to the moon on this, and you're just like crammed in there with the other people, and you like this doesn't even go all the way to the moon. It just flies by. It might have orbited. I don't remember. So for a couple weeks, you're stuck in there with like 40 other people. Man, it would have been so cramped. They probably should have targeted the more luxury end of the market instead of trying to sorry, from an economic standpoint, they probably should have targeted the more luxuriant end of the market, so they could have charged higher prices and had more luxurious accommodations. I admire what they were trying to do, bringing space to everyday people, though, or at least almost everyday people. So down, no, not down here. It was here, I think. This place is a maze. In here, you've got like a little bit of a reading room, I guess. In here, there's staff bedrooms. Oh, yeah, this is the staff module. Slightly better accommodations. The staff would have bunk beds instead of just sleeping in like basically a barracks. And down here, you would have probably a few more extra docking ports. And then down here, you do have another custom viewing module, because I do love my viewing modules. Anyway, I do believe that should be everything in... Oh, actually, no, I did forget one thing. The docking array on the second expansion, I think it was. I will head over there. Over here. I did go through it once, but I kind of forgot that I had gone through it. So I'll go through it again. This is one of the expansion docking arrays, because if you'll recall, the initial docking array was that thing over there, and it was not very open. Like, you could very easily crash into the space station. And it was probably starting to get a little bit congested. So over here, you have the docking port for the ATV-22 Mark II, and you can kind of see its silhouette out there. It was a larger and more refined version of the original, and the original is right there, as you can see. So, like, there's quite a size difference. And it can hold more cargo. And this is also another technological thing. Like, there's this concept of interface materials, which are materials that are designed to connect two things together. And for a long time, this had just been like plain iron against iron. Then they discovered, like, oh, if we put glowstone between things, things might be a little bit more cushiony and like less likely to break. However, glowstone proved very brittle. And in time, they started making things out of sea lanterns instead. It was proved to be a much more robust solution. Until they found something else, at least. In here... Oh, that's the space shuttle. Hold on. Is there anything in here before I go to the space shuttle? No. This is an airlock. Okay, or an NP docking port. So, the space shuttle. The space shuttle is an interesting thing, which will get its own video on it. But this is, I believe, the space shuttle Guardian or the space shuttle Ocelot. I forget which one. There were 2 or 3 that were built, depending on how you want to count. One of them is in the museum, and one of them is on the launch pad, and one of them is at the space station. And the museum will need its own video as well. There's so many things that need its own video. So this is the control seating. You'd fly the shuttle. I think I actually had an entire control system worked out where each of these buttons did. But sadly, I've long forgotten that. You'd sit in your pilot seat here and fly the space shuttle down to a landing. We'd have so much fun imagining this stuff. You've got more seats back here. This was one of the ways that crews got to the space station. You have your cargo section here, and you've got your living section here. I believe this shuttle could hold 4 people. Although like in an emergency, you could probably fit everyone in here. Well, not everyone, but like a lot of people in here, just enough to re-enter, basically. So, I do believe that is all of the old section of the space station. Given that this video has been half an hour long, it's probably not a good idea to continue to the new segment of the space station. So please, in the comments below, let me know if you'd like to learn more about the adventures I had as a kid in these Minecraft worlds and all of the cool things that happen within it. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Holden and Steve, out.